Sheila Gunn-Reid for Rebel News here in Banff at the G7 Summit. And it wouldn't be a G7 Summit under the Liberals without a side of secrecy, a dash of globalist gatekeeping, and a whole buffet of media manipulation served up by none other than Global Affairs Canada. Because if there's one thing Mark Carney's team is good at, it's making sure the press is only free when they're pre-approved. To see all of our coverage from here on the ground, go to g7reports.com. But the G7, in case you've forgotten, is a closed-door club of the world's richest democracies, where the leaders plot global policy over catered lunches and climate platitudes. But let me show you how this media scam works. Here's the so-called media opportunities email we received this morning. You'll notice it generously informs us that the Canada-US bilateral meeting at 9 a.m. is open to all media. Wow, what a rare moment of transparency, right? Except there's one problem. That email, it hit inboxes at 8:14 in the morning. And where was this media happening? At the Sinclair Room in Kananaskis. Now, unless you're already a CBC reporter camping under the Prime Minister's chair, you're not getting there in time from anywhere else. The media center is here in Banff, nearly an hour away. Some journalists are in Calgary. That's about the same distance. However, I was in Canmore and I could have made it. I was on my way. But wait for it. They changed the rules nearly at the security gate. Hi, I'm great.
Good.
I'm a journalist. Yes, but they're not going to let me in anyway because they switched it from general to pooled last minute. So
right.
Nothing like Global Affairs and their competence. Anyway, I'll whip a Yui and
go a little bit further for the user.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. At the last minute, Global Affairs pulled the old switcheroo and sent an email only admitting pooled media. That means your tax-funded state broadcaster, CBC, and the usual suspects, BBC, Reuters, CNN. You know, the ones who never ask questions that normal people care about. The same folks who couldn't spot a Carney scandal with both hands and a search warrant. You see, Global Affairs plays this little gaslighting game where they technically accredit independent journalists like me after a threatened lawsuit and a last-minute court date, and then they stash us in the media center in Banff, an hour away from the action, while the world leaders are tucked away in Kananaskis. You can see details of our lawsuit against the federal government at letusreport.com. But like I said, we're here in Banff with no access, no questions, no accountability, just a press pass and a polite middle finger. And all of this is happening as current U.S. President Donald Trump makes his presence known here in Alberta. His appearance comes amid surging desire in this province to leave Canada altogether and maybe even join the United States. Can you imagine the look on Mark Carney's face if someone like me dared to ask Trump about Alberta independence while cameras were rolling? No wonder they only let the boring pooled media in. Now, I don't want to attribute malice where stupidity and bureaucratic incompetence will do, but let's be honest. This government has a proven track record of maliciously excluding Rebel News from press conferences and public events. Maybe this was just Global Affairs bungling the single most important press conference of the entire summit, Carney and Trump on Alberta soil. Who knows? Either way, incompetence or censorship, the result is still the same at the end of the day. No real media, no real questions, no real accountability. You know, for all the flack Donald Trump gets from the media, he opened the White House briefing room to everyone, podcasters, YouTubers, bloggers. Heck, if you had a mic and questions, you were in. But over in Kananaskis, at a summit run by Carney's globalist gang, transparency means let CBC handle it. They'll edit out anything that's uncomfortable for the government. Meanwhile, we're left in the parking lot of democracy with our press passes and a police escort telling us to go back to Banff and mind our own business. This G7 isn't just about climate or trade or world peace. It's about control. Control of who gets to speak, control of what gets covered, and most of all, at the end of the day, that means control of you. If you want real coverage from people who aren't bought or paid for or afraid, go to g7reports.com to see and support our work. Because at this summit, the only thing more predictable than the environmental pledges, which are surely to come, is the media mishandling by the Liberals. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. Mark Carney's government is doing its very best to control the media narrative. The media are sequestered an hour away in Banff from the leaders in Kananaskis. But we've been kept away from the action before, and we are still able to do effective journalism. To see and support our journalism from the G7, go to g7reports.com.